building synergies between knowledge, education.
I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to those who are physically present here today and those who are joining us via Zoom in Sri Lanka as well as from various locations across the world. We are about to create history here at the Faculty of Education of the University of Colombo. Welcome to the inaugural ceremony of the first ever International Research Symposium of the University of Colombo under the theme Multidisciplinary Research in Education. Under the auspices of the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratne, and Dr. Kapila Bandara, Dean of the Faculty of Education, we are just about to stage the first ever International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education of the University of Colombo. The first item on the agenda, as always, is the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. I would like to call upon the following personnel to come forward for the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratne, Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo. She is also the chief guest here today. Dr. Kapila Bandara, Dean of the Faculty of Education. Dr. Lalita Kumari, Symposium Chair. Dr. Sulochana Neranjani, Symposium Co-Chair. All the heads of the 4 departments of the Faculty of Education. Former Professor C. Karyavasam, representing all the distinguished retired academics. Professor Devaka Veerakon, representing the members of the advisory board, session chairs and the editorial board. Former deans, Professor Chandradasa Wanigama, Professor Manjula Vidhanapatirana, Mrs. Talata Ekanayaka, Senior Assistant Registrar of the Faculty of Education. Thank you. I would also like to invite former Dean, Professor Emeritus, Professor Mari Perera, to join the rest of the dignitaries in lighting the traditional oil lamp. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The next is the singing of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, let us rise to our feet for the national anthem. Thank you. Coming up next is a traditional Sri Lankan dance called the Puja dance for your listening and viewing pleasure.
Ganapati detinuvana mihikat rakiti mederana denne mata nuwana asam devi jani deva subhagana ayubho veva kalaset mugun veva dosa guru veva sakra mahabahu ayubho va සමාන වේ මලවර පෙළ කවියට පෙර සිටම පැවතේ තුංග බේරි පටාමන්දලි මෙලෙස රංග පෑවෙතිගෙන තුරු ඇති නලගනන් සතයකින් පුර සිරිදරු උපරුවන් සිතුමියවන් බුදු කයරියන් තිස සිරිපිරු ලැබතුලෙන් දස පසින් කොනාගම බුදුන් අනගෙන දරු සපනන් නලලතනු බන් බැමතන යනන් ගහන තනිතා දුක සමන් දුක තුලත බෙල්ලද දෙවුර බැලමිට අනපිටා ඈත පිට අලුත සැකිලද සහකසමින් කොසමිය පුටා ඈත කරමා හමින් අට විසි බුදුන් අනුහස් වාදානාතා
That was a beautiful traditional Sri Lankan dance of offering. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to invite our chief guest, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratna, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Dr. Kapila Bandara, Dean, Faculty of Education, Dr. Lalita Kumari, Symposium Chair, and Dr. Sulochana Neranjani, Symposium Co-Chair, to take their seats at the head table. Thank you. Next is the welcome address by the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Kapila Bandara. Dr. Bandara is profoundly loved and respected by the academic as well as the non-academic community here at the Faculty of Education and elsewhere as well for his integrity, academic integrity and good-heartedness. I must mention here, he is a symbol of strength in character, teamwork, trust, and above all, friendship. The International Research Symposium was his brainchild. Today it has become a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Kapila Bandara, Dean of the Faculty of Education, to deliver the welcome address. All yours.
Subodhasanak, Kale Vanakkam, and good morning. Respected clergy, Chief Guest, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratna, Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Keynote Speakers, Dr. Dujipa D. Samarasekara and Professor Rudolf Egger, the Rector, the Sri Pali Campus, the University of Colombo, Deans of the faculties of the University of Colombo, directors, of the institutes of the University of Colombo, acting librarian, the registrar, bursar, the University of Colombo, members of the advisory board, session chairs, editorial board and review panel of our symposium, former professors, senior lecturers of the Faculty of Education, and all the academic members and administrative staff and supportive staff, paper presenters, dear colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for joining with us at the first International Research Symposium 2021 of the Faculty of Education, University of Colombo. As you all know, the annual Research Symposium is one of the major and significant event of the Faculty of Education, which is organized parallel to the University Research Symposium. So during the last few years, faculty has been holding symposia annually to showcase the research of the academics and the students of the faculty. This year, faculty has taken a step forward to hold an international research symposium in keeping with the theme Interdisciplinary Research in Education. Research findings related to the various disciplines in education will be disseminated by 55 researchers around the world, including Sri Lanka, at this International Research Symposium. I strongly believe that the symposium will provide a useful forum to novel discourse on educational research. Considering the epidemiological situation in Sri Lanka as well as of the world, Faculty of Education decided to hold this event in the hybrid mode. I am happy to say that this whole program broadcast live via our official YouTube channel, that is EDU space UOC. That's our official YouTube channel of the Faculty of Education. So this symposium is held at a moment when we were taught an unforgettable lesson by an invisible and intangible microscopic parasite. This lesson forced us to shift to a new paradigm from our previous or former practices. There is no argument that our usual educational practices that we have been engaged in over a long period of time was suddenly paralyzed due to this pandemic situation. But on the other hand, this directed us towards alternative ICT-based educational approaches which we have ignored in the past. With this, I personally believe that we as a nation, educationally leap forward by 10 or 15 years. If not for the pandemic, we would still have been practicing the same traditional method of teaching. I think this is the positive outcome of the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, we repeatedly say that we live in a knowledge-based society. But here, I have three fundamental questions to raise here. Number one, are we in the knowledge-based society? As a nation, are we in the knowledge-based society? Question number two, are we entertaining the characteristics or outcome of the knowledge-based century or knowledge-based society? Number three, if knowledge is considered as the most productive and deciding factor of production in this era, why isn't our society knowledge-based or at least heading to that direction? Those are my fundamental questions that I wanted to raise here. The educational practices, mainly delivery methods that are applied in most of the educational institutions in the country, help to provide or help to transfer the so-called explicit knowledge. The explicit knowledge can be easily transferred across the time and space, but large proportions of knowledge tacit. But tacit, that means the tacit knowledge reside in people's mind can be accessed on a first person basis only. And also, it takes time to develop. So therefore, I propose and I believe that we need a systematic and scientific approach is needed to unearth this tacit knowledge. So what we need to realize is that effective creation and application of knowledge depends on the broad context. Broad context means culture, institutions, and governance. Knowledge must be integrated into an effective system of research institutions, innovation-driven enterprises, universities, and also other establishments. Findings of research conducted in various aspects of education in Sri Lanka as well as abroad related to the general education, primary education, higher education, and vocational education in the areas of teaching and learning, language learning, education management and leadership, curriculum development, education psychology and assessment, adult and continuing education will be presented today. Therefore, this International Research Symposium will help to promote and establish such a research culture in our institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, let me welcome you all for today's event, because this is the welcome address. First and foremost, our chief guest at today's event, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Senior Professor Chandrika and Vijayaratna. I bid a very warm welcome to the Faculty of Education. We are indeed honored to have you here with us. Warmly welcome, ma'am. On behalf of the Faculty of Education and the organizing committee, I would also like to warmly welcome our keynote speakers of this International Research Symposium, Dr. Dujipa Di Samarasekara, Senior Director, Center for Medical Education, Yang Luling School of Medicine, National University of Singapore. Also warmly welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Rudolf Egger, Professor of Empirical Learning, World Research and Education Didactics in the University of Graz, Austria. I also bid a very warm welcome to this event, our rector, deans of the faculties of the University of Colombo, directors, and the acting librarian of the University of Colombo. Also very warmly welcome our registrar and the bursar, the University of Colombo. Next, I wish to welcome very warmly all the members of the advisory board, sessions chairs, editorial board, and review panel. Also warmly welcome our former professors, senior lecturers of the Faculty of Education, dear sirs and madams. We are indeed honored to have you here with us. My warm welcome goes to the heads of the departments and all the members of the academic, administrative staff, and supportive staff who are joining with us today physically as well as via Zoom. Next, my warm welcome goes to all the distinguished invitees who are joining with us today. I also wish to extend my warm welcome to all the authors who are going to present their papers today. Last, not least, as the Dean of the Faculty, I wish to appreciate and thanks for the support given by the Symposium Chair, Dr. Lalita Kumari is the head of the Department of the Social Science Department. Also co-chair, Dr. Sulochana Neranjani is attached to the Department of Humanities Education, and Symposium Committee and all the members of the faculty. I believe that as a dean, I'm very proud you have with you, and chair, co-chair, and all the members of education. I believe the words are not enough to explain your dedication and your contribution for the success of for this event. And finally, I wish, so without your support, I believe this event would not have been possible. So finally, I wish all of you a memorable and successful symposium. So thank you very much.
That was Dr. Kapil Bandara, Dean of the Faculty of Education, University of Colombo. Thank you for your encouraging words. You happen to mention about knowledge society. Well, as researchers, we need to assimilate data, do research, disseminate our findings, and create our knowledge. So assimilation, dissemination, and creation are considered to be the pillars of a knowledge society. Thank you very much for your encouraging words. Next is the address by the chief guest. Let me speak a few words about her support and assistance towards us. We need not say much about our chief guest today because the whole university is vibrating and echoing her prominence, so to speak. Senior Professor Chandrika and Vijayratna, Madam, we are really honored to have you with us here today as the chief guest. You have made all of us so proud of your distinguished work in numerous capacities, both as an academic and an administrator, particularly the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo. You are one of the most celebrated medical dignitaries and medical researchers in Sri Lanka today, with nearly 600 research articles and over 4,600 citations. Without much ado, may I invite our distinguished chief guest, Senior Professor Chandrika and Vijayratna, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, onto the stage to address the gathering. Thank you.
Ayubowan, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning to you, and thank you for those very kind words, which I'm deeply humbled by. Dean, former deans, the conference co-chairs, the other deans and rector and directors who have joined online, reverend sirs, all the alumni of this wonderful faculty, and most importantly, our research students who are from the postgraduate courses of the Faculty of Education. On behalf of the University of Colombo, I wish to congratulate you, truly congratulate you, as well as welcome the two keynote speakers, of whom one I know very well, Dr. Dujipa Samarasekara, and the respected speaker from the University of Graz, whom I have had the opportunity to meet some of them through the Contessa project. So may I first recall that this faculty is very unique. It's a branch of the Faculty of Arts, the oldest Faculty of Arts of the University of Colombo, I believe, and you all are reaching your 50 years, I do not know when, probably in another 2 or 3 years, and I think it's time to start the run-up to it. So many congratulations, because we have been through many trials and tribulations as a country, as a society, but I pay homage to all the teachers, particularly my teachers, because we wouldn't be standing here today if not for our teachers. As the great scholar Aristotle said, the philosopher, parents give birth, but teachers make and formulate, mold us to what we are as professionals. So as our conference chairs and dean and the MC have all very eloquently explained, both in the written and the verbal modes, research, knowledge creation is something that we are trying our level best as a university, as the oldest and pioneering university, to take further forward rather than knowledge transfer alone. And the knowledge that we create has to no doubt have an impact on society, and particularly on those important sustainable development goals, which ensures that no one is left behind. And in fact, in this year, we highlighted the theme multidisciplinary research and impactful research. And I'm very pleased that your faculty has taken on this task, and I'm also looking forward to finally mapping out all the outcomes of your research into a meaningful dialogue with the policymakers and planners of our country, particularly in the field of education. The reason why I say this is, as our dean mentioned, he posed 3 important questions. I do not want to answer all those, but we were catapulted into a digitized transformation of particularly education and communication and accessing information, and which I believe we were less ready as teachers when compared to our next generation of learners. And in fact, I believe this was coming, long time coming, but we were not strong enough to take it on. We were forced to take it on, and despite all the heartaches of COVID-19, this may be probably one of those challenges that were converted into an opportunity, a great opportunity. One is the fact that we would encourage, through technology, self-reliant learning rather than the word teaching. And that is something that I would really look forward to, and particularly experiential learning, which if we can bring about that transformation. I know the educational reforms are under discussion under one umbrella, and we vice chancellors are also playing a role from early childhood education to also highlighting the importance of civic education. And I'm so grateful to your faculty for having psychology, sociology, as well as humanities and science and technology. Because without having science and technology, we would not move forward with the times of the 21st century. No doubt the linked language of English is needed, but we need to appreciate the need for inclusivity and to be trilingual in our outreach. I know that you all are trying your level best to encourage bilingual approaches. And I was just thinking, our national anthem, Eka Mawakage Daruo, suggests inclusivity, and that is something that we really need to imbibe through our educational means. We should not have divisions based on race, religion, and cultures, etc. We are one family, one group, and I think Sri Lanka has a long way to go. And we can, through your good officers of the field of education. I'm also very grateful to this faculty for engaging with the other faculties, particularly through other forms of expression of ideas, creativity, as you saw the puja dance, which is so important to have that good mix of all the fields to make a well-rounded citizen, a global citizen. So we have faced challenges from technology perspectives of getting linked to also new aspects of cybersecurity and cyberbullying, which I think is very important to be addressed from the school curricula to make our students, our charges, prepared to be able to say no to any of those nuances that would come their way in terms of trying to misdirect them. We face many challenges with our inputs that come into the university, as you all well know, because they have been fashioned to be towards rote learning and exam-oriented cramming, which we must try, at least in these educational reforms, to try and overcome as a country and as a nation. I was also very pleased at our signature ceremonial launch of the annual research week 3 days ago. Honorable GLP is a former Vice Chancellor who came in person shared his views about the importance of not forgetting those who missed the opportunities of entering the limited space of the state universities, particularly to bind those who are going for vocational training into our mainstream of education and higher education. So I think there's a lot to be done, and your faculty can play a pivotal role, and I'm certain that you will. And I wish you all the very best, wonderful deliberations, and stay safe. Thank you.
That was our chief guest, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratna, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo. Thank you for your kind words and wishes for the first International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education. We stand in awe of your academic sagacity and your stubborn pertinacity in inducing other academics across other faculties to engage in research, which is why we are having an International Research Symposium here today. Thank you very much for that. We are indeed very proud to have you as our Vice Chancellor, and we are also very proud of your dynamic leadership qualities. Thank you very much, Madam. Next on the agenda is the keynote speech. Excuse me, we haven't forgotten you, Madam, yet. We have arranged a token of appreciation, and I invite Dr. Kapil Bandara, Dean Faculty of Education, to give it over to our chief guest, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratna. Thank you, Dr. Kapil Bandara. Next on the agenda is the first keynote address. To introduce the first keynote speaker, I invite Dr. Kapil Bandara, Dean of the Faculty of Education of the University of Colombo, to the stage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lakshman. It's indeed honored to and privilege to have this opportunity to introduce our first keynote speaker in this International Research Symposium. Dr. Dujipa D. Samarasekara is the Senior Director, Center of Medical Education, Yang Lu Ling School of Medicine, National University of Singapore, and the Director of the Center for Development of Teaching and Learning, National University of Singapore. He is the Senior Consultant at the Ministry of Health, Singapore. He also is the Course Director of the Masters in Health Professions Education, Singapore, and is the Chair Faculty Teaching Excellence Committee for Yang Lu Ling School of Medicine and So Sui Hak School of Public Health. He serves as the Honorary Professor and visiting faculty at the Maastricht University, Netherlands. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Chai University in Science and Technology, Taiwan, and Sem State Medical University, Kazakhstan. He serves on the editorial advisory boards of many peer-reviewed journals and has authored academic book chapters related to medical education. Dear sir, You are very warmly welcome, and thank you very much for accepting to deliver the keynote speech in our first International Research Symposium. Sir, over to you. Please deliver your keynote speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapila Bandara. I do hope that you can hear me. Okay, so again, it's an honor and a pleasure to be the opening keynote speaker for the first International Research Symposium, and also on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and my former teacher, Professor Chandrika Vijayaratna, and all the distinguished guests. I do hope I will do a good introduction to the research symposium. So let me get this going, and I do hope that you can hear me. If not, please do let me know. My presentation is basically on looking at scholarship of teaching and learning, focusing on the interdisciplinarity of learning to practice. Now, as Dr. Kapila Bandara very kindly shared, I am from the National University of Singapore. I've been working here, I think now nearly close to about 15 years or more. But I'm a proud alumnus from University of Colombo, from the Faculty of Medicine. And I'm part of the Yongloo Lin School of Medicine. And also my main role is with the Center for Medical Education, where we focus on scholarship of teaching and learning, international collaborations, faculty development, as well as supporting our faculty and students in their learning journey. As part of my institutional requirements, all the ideas shared here are mine and based on my personal experience, unless otherwise stated or referenced. Now, for the next 20 or 30 minutes, I'll be mostly focusing on the scholarship of teaching and learning with an interdisciplinary angle. Why is this very important? And also, what is this interdisciplinarity and the scholarship of teaching and learning? And how could we engage effectively and operationalize and our own personal experience in getting this through? So I want to start off with what was shared at the very beginning in that video clip about the vision and the mission of Colombo University. As it states, the vision to be a center of global excellence in education research and get the stakeholder engagement. I think that is important. And as the mission, how we are going to get this thing through is engagement and collaboration with industry and community. So the interdisciplinarity itself comes from the vision and the mission statement of the Colombo University. And so it's nothing new or not alien concept, should not be an alien concept to University of Colombo, and of course all the faculty centers and schools under the Colombo University. This is also highlighted in the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals, where the focus is to develop lifelong learners to engage effectively the challenges of the 21st century through collaborative research and open science to contribute to the recovery and resilience of societies and connecting education to other sectors. So again, the interdisciplinarity comes through here very strongly, and how we should get involved in this, how should we get the students to engage and learn through interdisciplinarity, and how do we know whether it is really effective or impactful? That is where the scholarship of teaching and learning come in. So I'm going to share this within the next few minutes, and again highlighting some of the new 21st century skills that are required from the World Economic Forum that was actually published a couple of years ago. From what we already know about the foundational literacies, the competencies and the character qualities, there are few areas which are completely new. For example, some of the character qualities that we need to develop in our students, like curiosity, the social and the cultural awareness, the initiative, adaptability, and very importantly, persistence and grit. And this has very clearly shown during the pandemic why we need to focus on these areas. Furthermore, the competencies such as creativity, critical thinking and problem-solving ability, collaboration, these are newer things that are coming on board, and we need to really engage through a whole list of teaching learning activities where we try to get this across to our students and teachers. So the ultimate aim of all this is to develop our students and, of course, in all our stakeholders, the ability to problem solve, to get involved in critical thinking, to create links and to discover that interconnectedness, and also to reason ethically and professionally, and also to develop that curiosity, innovation, and entrepreneurial drive of our students and all our stakeholders. Now, that's, I feel, an institution's responsibility, again, linking back to the mission and the vision of Colombo University. Right. Now, what are some of the challenges that we are facing in the 21st century? We are facing natural disasters. As right now, when I see the Sri Lankan news, I say that there are floods, rains, and etc. We also see the sustainable issues with regard to climate, the energy. Also, we are both having internal and external threats, and these are not only common to Sri Lanka. This is globally. Even in Singapore, we are also seeing the same things. The rising group of aged persons, the silver tsunami, and of course, all of us are moving into this digital realm. So these are new challenges, and quite rightly, as I shared earlier, we need to develop those attributes and the competencies in our students to address this. So how do we manage this change? How do we get involved, and how should we prepare our students for the future? Well, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, as you can see from very famous person who shared this, Nelson Mandela. And this is where I think we have to weaponize education to get this change going. So how do we do this? And these are some of the things that are coming on board. I actually came across this recently also in Japan, and this is something, and I hope that this would work. So education is tipped to be one of the highest growth areas in the future. And in Singapore, we are actually developing bots where the students will be able to engage with these bots 24/7 as part of their learning journey. Now, this is where we need to think the different ways of engaging the students, getting them exposed to different disciplinary fields rather than just focusing on one entire area, and then use the scholarship of teaching and learning to see whether they are really effective or not. So what is interdisciplinary learning? Interdisciplinary learning focuses on integrating different aspects of more than one academic discipline so that the students can see problems from different perspectives. You are actually giving them that knowledge and the skill set to evaluate a problem from multiple aspects and multiple disciplinary angles. This empowers students to explore different perspectives, as I shared earlier, and delve into deep learning and make meaningful connections. And the scholarship of teaching and learning is a systematic approach. And I think Madam Chandrika mentioned earlier that, how we apply, use the applied research. And this is basically getting in education, using this systematic process to get involved, to study the impact of these changes that we have incorporated. But one of the key things is, how do we get our teachers critically involved, get them to be reflective, to ask the right questions, rather than giving them the tips on how to teach, but basically going beyond that to reflect and to ask the questions and to see, am I teaching properly? What more do I need to do? How do I develop that? Those metacognitive abilities of our teachers. And this is one of the most challenging, as Bohm and the others have shared. The concept of scholarship in pedagogy is very unfamiliar to many of the university faculty members and academics. So therefore, I think we should, before we even think of preparing our faculty, our students, we need to prepare our teachers and our faculty, right? We need to give them the right skill sets, and it is no better place than the Department of Education who can lead in this in the university setting, so that our faculty members actually develop that metacognitive ability to look beyond their own disciplinary field. So let me share what is happening at National University of Singapore. So we have started 2 new interdisciplinary colleges from this academic year. The very first one started in this August. The very first one is the College of Humanities and Sciences, combining one of the 2 largest faculties in the National University of Singapore, the Faculty of Science and the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. By combining these 2, we have created the College of Humanities and Sciences. And then the next academic year, we will be combining the Faculty of Engineering and the Faculty of Design or Architecture together. And then in 24-25 academic year, we will be also hope to launch the College of Health Sciences as well, combining the different disciplines in health sciences as well as in engineering, like biomedical engineering, etc. Now, why are we doing this? It is because of what I mentioned earlier, because we want our students to effectively engage the 21st century challenges. So what has this happened now for College of Humanities and Sciences? By combining these 2 large faculties to develop new programs, we have now 13 common curricular modules for our students. We have about 1,700 students in this academic year going through the CHS, the College of Humanities and Sciences, with 30 primary majors, 30 secondary majors, and about 60 minors. And you can see from this that we have about 1/3 of the curriculum is common to both the students coming from an arts background and students who are coming from a science background, right? And this has actually opened up about 70 internship opportunities in the industries, and new 340 overseas partnerships, and in 42 countries for our students here at National University of Singapore. So how do we actually get this across? Because we can't use the same teaching learning techniques and the approaches. So we have now revamped our blended learning. This is now called the blended learning 2.0 in the university. We have actually created a repository of digital learning material, and also to document the journey of their learning for both the students and the faculty members through the Genius World. And also pumped in a lot of resources for the students as well as faculty to equip them and to help them, to support them in this digitalization and digital transformation through use of many of the digital world. But I want to focus one very innovative pedagogy that we have been using. It is the design your own module. This is 8 module credits. Now the students can design their own module in these colleges. So they actually co-create as a student body, as an individual student or a group of students with the faculty members, they can create their own module, and they can design this, and this actually can give them 8 modular credits in their degree program itself. So you can see how we are bringing in the interdisciplinarity to our students and as well as our faculty members, because the Center for Development of Teaching and Learning and the Center for Medical Education, we are also promoting interprofessional and interdisciplinary teaching. We are equipping our teachers in this area. So how is this converted into scholarship? So this is where we focus on Boyer's work. As I'm sure you all know about Boyer's work of the 4 areas of scholarship of teaching and learning, integrating the discovery, integration, application, and teaching. And this is a very clear, nice slide showing how these have been integrated. However, we are using a slightly different model of the Glassix model, basically focusing on teaching, moving to excellent teachings, to scholarly teaching, to integration, discovery, and application. What do I mean by this? So basically, the scholarship of discovery focuses on building new knowledge. So our faculty members are actively looking at how does this new interdisciplinary learning and engagement as well as evaluation is building new knowledge. So this is in our own areas as well as an interdisciplinary nature. How do we actually integrate this knowledge in the interconnectedness, as I mentioned earlier, across disciplines? And how does it really help the students? So this is where, again, another area of scholarship or the research is going on currently. And then finally, the scholarship of application. How do we actually translate this into real day-to-day practice and to day-to-day activities? So these are some of the areas, how we are looking at it, and how, as National University of Singapore, one of the leading universities in Asia and in the world, how we are taking the leadership role in this particular area. So this is where the support and the other things are coming in, which I'm going to very quickly share in my next few slides. Of course, the scholarship is evaluated very rigorously, and we have our own support systems to evaluate and to promote. And we based on this Schumann and Hutchings model of the 4 levels of the faculty member, and this is actually linked to their promotion, the tenure, as well as the progression in the university. So what is our experience? And this has created our faculty members to develop new innovations and teaching and learning. Now I'm going to focus entirely on my medical school because that's where I know the most. So you can see the world's first abdominal simulator was created by a faculty member. Now that's Professor Earl Lim. He is now currently the Vice Provost in Teaching Innovation and Quality. So this was when he developed the world's first abdominal simulator. This is Dr. Amitabh Lahiri from our hand surgery department. And what he has developed is an artificial intelligence training model for the hand surgery specialists, which he has shown through his research that it is far superior than a hand surgeon teaching the students or the residents hand surgery, because there's less complications, much faster learning, and the students or the residents can learn much faster and effectively using this AI-assisted microsuturing device. Again, that is part of applied research, as earlier that was mentioned. So another is a collaboration with other faculties. I do hope that this video will work. So this is again combining artificial intelligence.
Imagine Carrie is a medical student, and she's going to use Medicine to practice abdominal examination skills. First, she enters exam mode. She starts to perform the procedure of the abdominal examination based on what she learned from the textbook. She notices some symptoms on this virtual patient, based on which she makes her diagnosis.
So again, these are devices that are now developed and peer evaluated and accepted and now patented to go outside the university itself and shows the scholarship in identifying this. This came about because of the pandemic, starting from SARS pandemic, where we found that the students cannot actually go to the wards because of the pandemic situation. So now they can learn about patient examination using the simulator and also using the augmented reality that is available. So again, this was something that was developed by a team of people from National University of Singapore, and of course, collaborating with the Swedish University as well. Again, highlighting scholarship. So that's part of innovations. But what about research? So some of the things that I want to share, this is not praising the monkey's own tail, but actually sharing that we can actually turn some of the things that we do day in and day out into education research and disseminate these good practices across the globe. Now, these are all published in peer-reviewed and high-impact journals. For example, how we actually rapidly transformed our education systems from the old traditional model to a new model. This is basically on use of new outcome-based project called the Entrustable Professional Activities. Use of problem-based learning and different learning technologies, interprofessional education, combining the medical, nursing, pharmacy, dental, psychology, psychology students together and learning together through interprofessional education. So changing of our assessment systems to move from grading to pass-fail, and then how it has impacted our students to do better as well as to enjoy their university life more than focusing on the grades. So I'm just showing some of these examples which we do actually day to day in our curriculum and our curricular practices, which can be turned into excellent scholarship material if we plan it properly, if we engage properly, and if we successfully collect data and analyze it and disseminate it across. So I call this the ratatouille principle. Anyone can do research and anyone can engage in scholarship of teaching and learning. All you need to do is to focus on some of these areas. So some of this work is actually international collaborations that we have, disseminating and working with our peers and then publishing with them as well. And these recent ones are basically on the recent pandemic preparedness and the changes that we have done as well. So how have we got involved in this? This is again our own experience. How we have got involved is in these three areas, right? First of all, we need to create that nurturing organizational environment. The leadership is extremely important. And I'm so happy that Professor Chandrika Vijayaratna has shared earlier that how the university is going to create that nurturing environment for Colombo University. Secondly, to develop supporting structures and then focus on targeted scholarship of teaching and learning. So the first is that basically providing that supportive environment, providing that expertise through different opportunities for our faculty members, getting them in tuned and giving them the opportunities. So these are all opportunities that we have extended. We have even platforms like the Asia Pacific Scholar, or the Asian Journal of Scholarship and Teaching and Learning, so that our faculty members have a forum to share their work. And then, of course, not only that, we run international symposia. So this is why it is extremely important, something that what you are doing right now to disseminate the good work of the faculty members itself. And of course, we support our faculty members to go to international conferences as well. But not only that, we institutionalize the scholarship and teaching and learning to incentivize faculty so that they engage in this scholarship of teaching and learning. So you can see that the Faculty of Medicine or the School of Medicine at Yongloo Lin, one of the key areas is the scholarship in medical education among the top 10 in the world. So we monitor and track that. And not only that, this is blueprinted into individual faculty members' assessment at end of every year. So this is, you can see, part of the evaluation rubrics of faculty member, and part of that in yellow you can see below is the scholastic contributions, and that is taken very clearly and very seriously. On top of that, the university also offers the grants, the teaching enhancement grants, and then the learning technology grants for faculty members to engage in scholarship of teaching and learning. And these can go up to about $500,000 from the university itself. Not only that, we also celebrate the ones who achieve very high impact outcomes for the school or to the university. So I think those are important things, like the recipients of the Outstanding Educator Award. These are celebrated university-wide and given highlighted in all avenues possible. So you can see the amount of efforts that we take to promote scholarship of teaching and learning. And of course, there are targeted training in scholarship and also giving them the essential skills sets. So as I shared, to scholarship to flourish, our institution needs to be scholarly. That will promote the scholarly communities, the community of scholars, which will then generate, incubate, create, publicize ideas, concepts, principles, and which will lead to new products, new processes, as well as good scholarship outcomes. So I come back at the end of, this is my last slide, to the University of Colombo, the vision and mission statement. It is clearly stated. And I think this is the right time, and you are taking those steps by having the first international symposium, creating that environment and the support structures to be a center of global excellence in education, research, and stakeholder engagement. Through engagement and collaboration with industry community, it's a wider community that you are now planning to engage. So in summary, we need to develop and integrate new ways of teaching and learning, such as interdisciplinary teaching and learning. It is also important to evaluate the impact and the effectiveness of these teaching learning approaches, as I shared earlier. And this is where the scholarship, as initiated by Boye and later by Glassick, really helps us to develop a framework. And then, of course, the institutional leadership, both at the department level, at a faculty level, and also at the university level, should support these initiatives. So with that, I want to acknowledge, and I really want to thank Dr. Kapila Bandara and the Research Symposium organizers, Dr. Sulochana Niranjani and Dr. Lalita Kumari, and all of you participants for giving me this opportunity. It's a great pleasure as well as an honor for me to be the opening keynote speaker here. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Dujipa D. Samarasekara from the University of from the National University of Singapore. Dr. Samarasekara, the honor is ours, and thank you very much for enlightening us on the importance of interdisciplinary research and how we can empower our students in future to be able to take on multiple tasks which are the demands of the order of the day. Thank you very much for your insightful keynote speech. We really appreciate your participation in our first ever International Research Symposium. Thank you. The next keynote speaker is from the University of Graz, Austria. And to give a complete introduction to the next keynote speaker, I invite Dr. Lalita Kumari, the Symposium Chair of the International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education. Over to you, Dr. Kumari.
Thank you very much. It is indeed my pleasant pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Professor Rudolf Egger. Professor Rudolf Egger is a professor of Imperial Learning World Research and Higher Education Didactics at the University of Graz, Austria. He is also the Dean of the Faculty of Environmental, Regional and Educational Competence Center for Higher Education of the same university. Professor Egger has served as a visiting professor at Stockholm University and the University of Pristina. His service is not limited only to research, lecturing and administration, but has also contributed to research publications. I am so proud to state that Professor Rudolf Egger is the chief editor of the Weiterbildung. Now I kindly invite Professor Rudolf Egger to deliver the keynote speech. Dear Professor, over to you.
Hello, everybody. You can hear me. So I have an echo. So can you hear me now? Maybe you give me a sign. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can. Sir?
Yes, okay.
Yes,
so thank you very much. I didn't hear you. So my name is Rudi Ecke, as I was introduced. And first of all, thank you for the invitation to this wonderful conference. And thank you also to my colleague, Samara Razikera, for the scholarship of teaching. This is absolutely a great speech. And this is also absolutely a great project. We're doing the same in Austria in a way for the scholarship of teaching. So what I want to tell you is, the speech is called Learning Our Way Out. So I want to give another perspective on that kind of concept of teaching. And I want to force a perspective where we can link the things between learning, knowledge, research, and communication. In Graz, we have founded 12 years ago a faculty of environmental education and regional sciences, because we want to bring the things together. We don't want to have a faculty of education where only learning is the center, because we see the things that's going on in our society are much complex, and we have to bring it into the lives of the people. So my speech is called about the basic connection between research, knowledge, and communication. And the first thing is, why, from my point of view, is interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research so important in a way? So I think that's what we call learning our way out. Is the most important thing for us, because we don't think we can reach a kind of solution for this kind of conflicts now, even this is economic, political, cultural, social, or ecological crisis, or even in the pandemic. only with strategies of technologies. The only thing is that we change our behavior. The only thing is that we bring people in the learning process. And this is also so important, I think, to deal with the pandemic. So in Austria, we have a very bad situation now with the pandemic, with COVID-19. And we see, I think 25% of our society doesn't want to learn how to behave under new circumstances. They want to follow their old lines. And we see we have a lot of research about all the things, but a lot of people that they mistrust the vaccination and all the other things. They say, this is a kind of freedom. This is a kind of, I can behave as an individual. And we have research on the one way and we have behavior on the other way. And the thing is, why we need interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research is to bring these things together. And the dominant social and environmental developments, I think, cannot be changed without increasing the individual capacity of social actors. This is for us, it's the most important thing. We must necessarily strengthen the connection between knowledge and communication. That's what science is for me, in a way. It's not only producing knowledge in a way, it's also to communicate. And this is what my colleague Samara Razikara said about scholarship of teaching and learning. We have to bring this teaching and learning in the live world together. And science in that way must therefore be more strongly orientated towards developing common research, communication, and development tasks. This is a statement for us. It's very clear to bring these things together. We need a lot of knowledge about how is society moving and developing. But on the other hand, what do we do with this kind of knowledge? We have to bring it in the lives of the people. And the questions of the challenges from my point of view is, and this is the most important thing even for university teachers. How can research and science help people learn to deal with the cumulative risks? So this is not only to sit in a chair on the university and have a good project and have a good articles and reviewed papers and all these things. What I think is we have to bring it to the people. What kind of scientifically orientated storytelling is necessary? So this is for me so important. And what my colleague Samara Razikara said about the scholarship of teaching and learning is, this is a kind of storytelling and even research. And even if we're behaving in a methodological clear way, we have to find a story to bring it to the people, to bring it to the lives, not even to the students, also to the students, but also to people in other contexts. And the question is, how does research support people to read technical or scientific risks and expertise in a participatory way? And how can they convert the global hazards in the regional and life context? That's what we're doing on our faculty. We have these environmental things. We have research about climate change, about migration, about inclusive education, or the other things. But the one thing is to produce knowledge, as I said, and the other thing is to bring it into the life world. And how can we strengthen the connections between knowledge and the life world? And on the other hand, how can scientific expertise strengthen democratic achievement and liberality? And this is so important for me in the way of, if we talk about transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary. And the thing is, how can we bring these things together? And Professor Samara Razikara said about the scholarship of teaching and learning. It's the same way that we are doing this there are a lot of different opinions. Two opinions are the strongest. How can we bring people to think in an inter or transdisciplinary way? And this is not so easy, because we are on university, we studied psychology, ecology, or economy, or education. And we see the world out of this kind of research, of this kind of methodology, of this kind of how we deal with the questions. And the opinions is, maybe you know this figure, this is an elephant, and all the blind people, they have different views. What is this? Yeah, it's a spear, it's a rank, it's a fan, or whatever this is. And if we are socialized at university in a specific way of dealing with methodologies and knowledge, and one of the groups said, if you're socialized in one discipline, so we can look into another. And the other perspective says we have practiced early multi-perspectivity. And it's not so easy to practice multi-perspectivity, because every research community has its own rules and has its own gatekeepers and has its own methodologies. And it's not so easy to widen the focus in a way. But what I saw is, and that's what we are seeing in the project of the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, is perspective is everything. It's so important to have this kind of different perspectives to deal with that and to show the people how can they deal with another perspective. And I want to tell you a story about, this is also a kind of Scholarship of Teaching and Learning project. I want to show you some work that we did in Kosovo. Maybe you never heard about this country. I want to tell you something about it. And since 6 years, we are doing summer schools there at university. And we are multidisciplinary team. We have most of them, we have every year 6 or 8, 7, 8 scientists. They're coming from medicine, from law, from humanities. And normally we have 18 students who are coming from different countries, from Austria, from Switzerland, from Czechoslovakia, from Germany, from Italy, from Kosovo, Netherlands, Serbia, Slovenia, Sweden, and even the USA. And we bring in this team together. And this country, Kosovo, is I should say, this is a terrible territory. It's maybe I show you on the map. This is Europe, and this is Austria, where I'm now exactly am. And this is what we call the former Yugoslavia. Maybe you heard about this, the former Yugoslavia, and it broke down, and there are a lot of different states now. And this is Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, and this is Kosovo. And Kosovo, most of the Kosovoan people are Muslims, and the others are Christians, and they have a lot of problems in being a new state. And I say, I work in spend a lot of time in Kosovo, and I think it's how should I say, it's even nowadays a mafia-driven state in a way, what we call a failed state. But we're trying to bring the things together. How can we learn to establish a kind of normality in this kind of territory? And what we are doing is we are trying to bring out what is the meaning of social transformation? What do we mean with social transformation? If we say a society should transform into a democratic state in a way. And what we are doing is we are using, mostly we are using different kind of narrative interviews to generate a kind of what we call of normality of democracy in a way. And we are dealing with a subject that we see, if we collected hundreds of stories of Kosovarian people, of Serbian people, of Slovenian people, and we call this project also Stories are Territories. And that's what I said before, because we have to find a kind of narration to deal with the projects, to deal with the life courses, to deal with the vital things in which people are engaged. And in interpreting these stories with that kind of scientists and students, we look into the individual story and how this individual story is connected with other stories, with collective stories. And in the kind of interpretation, we are doing this with a grounded theory, with Glaser-Strauss, and we have a good methodology here to deal with methodology to deal with the texts. We can negotiate and reflect, what do we mean with transformation of a society? So transformation of society isn't a parade you can look at. It's just there are hundreds of daily steps how society can be moved. In Kosovo, as I said, is 1999 is under nations and NATO administration, and since 2008, the new state Kosovo has declared independence. But it's a very fragile status they have. And I want to tell you something about this project and maybe discuss a little bit after that. So maybe this is a little bit familiar to the situation in Sri Lanka. What we are doing is we are collecting interviews, and first of all, the students will be brought familiar with the methodology of ground theory and even with the principle of scholarship of teaching and learning in a way. And then we choose what kind of interviews do we want to make. We go out. We have good staff there to support us in a way. And we have the students themselves, they decide which people they want to interview in Kosovo. So they have a driver, they can go everywhere they want. And it's not so easy to find out the real and the right interview partners. We have long discussions about should we interview the Serbs? The Serbs, they say this is normal enemies of the Kosovarian people because they have destroyed everything in the state of Yugoslavia. And so the first thing is, which people can we interview, should we interview, and how can we deal with that in that way? And on the other hand, in the second thing is, we are establishing an archive of individual stories, of narrative stories. So the students get used to write this interview down. They have the transcription rules. They are very strict, and we collect also the audio files and also the transcripts of this. And in the process of interpretation, we can help to show that cultural differences are never only there where we believe to see. So on the first thing, there is a connection there. So can you hear me?
Yes, okay, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, thank you. And the process is to show the differences, the conflict lines are never there where we believe to see them. They are all written what we call in a structural, or with a structural ink. And we want to show the students and even the researchers to how can we look into this world in order to work with the texts and to show where the differences are written with a structural ink in a way. So the thing is, in the interpretation group, we want to figure out the correlations of stories and structures. And this is a very tricky thing in a way, because this is a strict ruling systems how we go on with the narrative interviews. And maybe most of you are familiar with the Glasser-Strauss thing. And so the students realize how can they deal with the subject of transformation in a way. So with this, we are doing this since 6 years, and in every summer school, we see there are so many experiences for the students, and they learn not only methodology, but they learn to speak and to think. What is transformation? How does it really look like in the life world? And how can it look like even in the structural world, in the scientific world? And using these biographical things in a way is also a kind of a matter of learning how to reorganize the experience and to bring a coherence in the story. And for me, what I see in the conflict of COVID-19 in Austria is that we have so many different stories. On the one hand, we have the scientific stories about the vaccination and all the other things. And on the other hand, we have a lot of everyday stories of episodes from people's life who doesn't fit to the scientific view to deal with the problem now in COVID-19. And what we saw in this Kosovo project and in other projects is how can we bring these episodes? How can we bring these arguments from life course, from the everyday's life from people into a scientific? How can we connect it? And in this kind of doing research, even with scholarship of teaching and learning, it is a good way to bring these things together. And how do we work with that? I don't think about, I want to tell you something about the methodology, but on the one hand, you have to understand is how we deal with the text structure. So as I said, the students, they have to do narrative interviews, and they can choose the partners, they discuss a lot of things, and they also be guided by all the things, because it's not easy for them to go in the lifeboats of the beetle. They also need a psychological a framework to deal with that. And even if the students have written down the stories, so we break it up in a way, and we have a very simple model. I want to show you. The simple model is how we deal with the text structures. The text structures, on the one thing, is the text surface, what we need, the what level. The what level is what does the people say. This is the one thing, is the addition of the told events in a way. The other thing is, and this is much more important, the how or even the why level. These are the underlying structures where people behave in. And this is for us very interesting. This connection between what happened in the point of view of the people in the narrations, and how do they deal with that. And this is the individual interpretation. This is the story, the history. This is also the language. We call it the inner landscape. And this was for the former Yugoslavian people, or for the Southeast European people. It was so hard to understand that they say, on the what level, it's so important what the people said. But on the other hand, to bring the connection between the what and the how, to bring in the complexity, that this is an area, the how level is an area where we deal in everyday's life with that kind of circumstances and with that kind of events. And on the other hand, we also have, we call it the why level. These are the institutional interpretation practice, the value structures. That's what we call culture. So you can, there's no way to go into this kind of culture if we don't think about a connection, to establish a connection between the what, how, and the why level. Because culture isn't something that we see. It's, as I told you, just another question. Sorry for that. Can you understand me? Can you hear me? Yes. So sorry for that, because I get always the message. It's just clear that you hear me. So to make any comment, the text structure is to bring these things together. And the most important thing for the students was, even for the Southeast European students, was, and what does this mean for truth? And what does this mean for how we deal with the story? So can every story be shaped in an individual way? And is this a kind of truth in a way? And we also worked with this model on this, different levels, that we say, on the what level, of course, there is truth in a way. So this is an addition of the told events. So we can check it out in history. If somebody says, I was born 1960 and I was in the World War II, so this is fake. Yeah. So we can, on the one hand, the addition of the told events can be checked. But on the other hand, as I told you, on the how level and the inner structure of the inner landscape, you can't say this is truth. You can't say this is fake. This is a kind of experience. And experience is always in between what we call structural and individual thing. And this is the most important thing for me in scholarship and teaching and learning, and in interdisciplinary thing, that we should know something about to bring the what level into the how and the why level. And that's what we call the norms, the traditions, the ideologies. And most of us, we don't know in which kind of ideology we speak. And I see this is also important for COVID-19, because the episodes that people have to say, I don't trust the vaccination because it's built by Bill Gates and they want to make zombies out of us. I don't know, I can't understand it. Yeah, but on the how level, I take it very seriously and want to find out how is it linked to norms and traditions. And this is for me the most important thing, to bring in this kind of research into the everyday life, to connect the life words to the research world. And the thing is, and even in every seminar, we have a discussion about, so what is this history? Yeah, and if in Southeast European students are saying that's history, they mean this is the most important thing in our life. And if the American or Netherlands students say that's history, say that's history, so what? Yeah, moving forward, that's the only thing. You see, this is written with a structural link. What is history? Is history a burden to show me the way in a conflict zone, in other things, or is history just a part of the way we have to go? And for the students, it was very, and even for the Southeast European students, it was hardly to understand how widely the interpretation can be stretched. How can the aspect of historical justice have its place in the interpretation? This is a very crucial point. They want to have justice because all the things the Serbs have done to them, yeah, they want to have justice. And they said, if everything is only a matter of interpretation, how can we talk about truth? And how can we talk about justice? And which consequences can be shown from the interpretation, actually, for the political changes in this country? And on the other hand, how can this scientific reconstructed truth be able to avoid future disasters? And for me, this is also important, even in going on with the conflicts in COVID-19. And the interpretation of this narration, what we saw is could help to understand the fact that history, as I told you, is always written with a structural link. And this interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research can help to understand these processes in a way. But on the other hand, acting, of course, is quite a different thing. So let's come to an end and bring the things together. Interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research projects work against, in a way, that methods, if they only serve to collect and analyze data, are little questioned. And most of them are very unreflectively applied to all research subjects. So I think if I'm working university systems in different countries since 30 years, and I see there is the godness of methodology in a way, and of methods, and they use it to every subject the same. And I doubted it. I call that this is an unreflective empiricism. And this is associated with a necessary consequence of a very naive valorization of numbers and charge, tables and statistic measures. What I saw, what we bringing out of the system of scientific is all, yeah, I would think in a lot of cases, a lot of numbers and charge and tables and statistic measures, but this has no consequence for the life world of people or even for students. And even in education, it's much more complicated because what I see is from an international point of view is the educational psychology, which is increasingly penetrating almost every kind of educational science. And we have to be very aware not to be psychologists with that kind of aims. And what I see not in all psychology themes and in all methodologies, what I see is the elimination of the subject. And this is what we bring in together with the projects of scholarship and teaching and learning and so on. And interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research is also, I'd call it a design for testing new concepts of exploration and development of text and videos and phases, and to have an eye for new contexts for concepts. It's not only investigating the individual problem, but from my point of view, it's broaden a problem-saving space towards society. And for me, it's the most important thing is to have a practical relevance and the challenge of finding a balance between science and practice. And the consequence for the understanding of science is for the quality of research projects is very important in that kind of way. So let's come to the last folio. Interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research projects, how should I say, they get us out of our psychosocial comfort zone. As my colleague Samara Zakara said, if we're doing this scholarship of teaching and learning, we have to look out of our methodology to others. And this kind of psychosocial comfort zone that we know how our discipline is structured and how discipline is working, we should leave it a little bit. And the exercises to bring in some epistemic humility, I call it epistemic humility, by not absoluting one's own claim to truth. Try to have a discourse with empathy and hospitality. It's what I learned in the scholarship of teaching and learning processes, to talk with medicines, to talk with lawyers, to talk with other kind of disciplines, natural scientists in a way, and nevertheless remain connected to one's own tradition. I think it's very important where we're coming from, not to be overtaken even by psychological things in a way. And for me, on the other hand, is note always the differences without wanting to eliminate them. And notice the last thing is it's the perspective, and we have to broaden the perspective in a way. And that's what I wanted to say to you. Thank you. Is somebody there?
Thank you very much, Dr. Rudolf Egger, for your insightful presentation about conducting transdisciplinary research. You were talking about stories. You were collecting so many stories from your subjects in Kosovo. Actually, at the moment, I am collecting various stories from my adult teacher students as well as undergraduate teacher students. They have a lot of stories to tell me about the inclusivity and the digital divide that they are experiencing when they have to have access to online teaching. So the methodology that I am applying is autoethnography. I think some of what you said fall into that category as well. Stories being told with reflections of the researcher, and also your remarks about psychology trying to take over all the aspects of educational matters and to strike a balance between quantitative approaches and qualitative approaches. So thank you very much. Professor Egger is no stranger to the Faculty of Education. He has visited Faculty of Education on several occasions so far. He is part of the Contessa project, which is coordinated by Professor Manjula Vidhanapathirana in Sri Lanka from the University of Colombo. And we also thank Professor Manjula Vidhanapathirana for helping us to get hold of Professor Rudolf Egger to deliver a keynote speech on the occasion of the International Research Symposium of the University of the Faculty of Education of the University of Colombo. Thank you very much, Professor Rudolf Egger, for your keynote speech. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the felicitation of the distinguished academics who are now retired from the Faculty of Education. To felicitate these distinguished academics, I would like to invite Ms. Sithari Tilakaratna and Dr. Chandradik Gamge.
Former Professor C. Karya Vasam, attached to the Department of Humanities Education, Faculty of Education. He was a member of the Policy Formulation Committee and Academic Affairs Board for the National Education Commission, Ministry of Education and National Institute of Education. He is a well-known writer on education in both Sinhala and English languages. He has served as a resource person for the Department of Examinations National Institute of Education and Ministry of Education. And he has worked as the head of the Department of Humanities Education from 1983 to 1989 and 1992 to 1998. Former Professor M.W.W. Disanayaka, attached to the Department of Science and Technology Education of Faculty of Education. He was a consultant for the curriculum development committees of NIE and several national level research studies and projects for the Ministry of Education. He was a resource person for the curriculum revision committees in National Institute of Education and Ministry of Education. He was appointed as head of the Department of Science and Technology Education from 1987 to 1989 and again 1997 to year 2000. Former Professor Dr. W.G. Kularatne, attached to the Department of Social Science Education of Faculty of Education. He has served as head of the Department of Social Science Education from 1996 to 1998. He became the Dean of the Faculty in 1998 and served in that capacity until his retirement. During his tenure as the Dean of the Faculty, he contributed enormously to its development. He has written many books and numerous articles in both Sinhala and English languages in the field of educational management especially. At present, he serves as a consultant to the Asian Development Bank and the Ministry of Education.
Mr. R.P. Karunasekara, attached to the Department of Social Science Education, Faculty of Education. Professor Karunasekara is a renowned academic with an expertise in comparative education, school organization, economic of education and commerce teaching methods. And he has served his expertise in the teaching methods of commerce and had extended his expertise to the National Institute of Education to develop the government commerce curriculum for school students. Professor Karunasekara retired in 2007, and during his period, he has served in the capacity of a researcher in a number of studies conducted by the National Education Research and Education Center, Evaluation Center of the Faculty of Education. Former Professor Dr. H.P. Raja Gunawardena, attached to the Department of Educational Psychology, Faculty of Education. Professor Gunawardena joined to the university in 1979 and he retired in 2007 August. His scholarly contribution in the field of educational psychology is well recognized, and he is a teacher education specialist of the Department of Primary Education, Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2007 to 2009. In the service of the university, he was the acting director of National Education Research and Evaluation Center in 2007 and director of Institute of Human Resource Advancement, IHRA 2003 and to 2005. Professor Gunawardena joined to the university in 1979, and in his 28 years of service, he was a renowned researcher on educational measurement and assessment, contributed to World Bank, GIZ, National Institute of Education, and Ministry of Education, Higher Education for interventions on educational testing and evaluation. He became the Dean, Faculty of Education from 2005 to 2007. Former Professor S. Chandrasekaram, attached to the Department of Social Science Education. Professor Chandrasekaram was the chairman of the Official Languages Commission of Sri Lanka from 2018 to 2019. And he has published numerous books and articles on comparative education, educational planning, and sociology of education in both Tamil and English languages. From 2007 to 2010, Professor Chandrasekharan was appointed as the Dean of the Faculty of Education and retired in 2010 after 35 years of excellent service. His scholarly contribution in the field of education is well recognized. In appreciation of the human service he has contributed towards local education, he was awarded the prestigious Vidyanidhi Presidential Award in 2017.
Former Professor Dayarohan Athukorala, attached to the Department of Humanities Education in the Faculty of Education. He was a motivator of junior academics and students to achieve goals. He is a pioneer member who introduced the concept of positive thinking to the whole nation and instrumental in development of innovative thinking and creativity of the students. He has published several books on various disciplines to change and transform the lives of the people on various spheres of the society. He was a talented teacher and influential leader who influenced the personality development of both staff and students. Former Professor Dr. M. Karunanithy, attached to the Department of Social Science Education of Faculty of Education. He has extended his service from 1991 to year 2014 for the Faculty of Education. He was the Director of National Education Research and Evaluation Center from 2008 to 2014. He is proficient in Sinhala language and he has already translated a number of books from Sinhala to the Tamil medium. Further, he has authored 15 books on various topics related to the education discipline. He has disseminated findings of national level research studies conducted by National Education Research and Evaluation Center of the Faculty of Education. Mr. N.V. Karunasena, attached to the Department of Science and Technology Education of Faculty of Education. He was a consultant of Curriculum Development Committees in Science for the Ministry of Education and National Institute of Education. He was a consultant in science education at national level research studies and other projects for Ministry of Education. He is a well-known writer on science education, teaching and research methodologies. He was appointed as the head of the Department of Science and Technology Education for 3 times from year 2000 to year 2009, 2014 to 2015 and 2017 to 2018. Dr. Anula Hettige, attached to the Department of Social Science Education, Faculty of Education. She was the faculty member of Gender Issues from year 2015 to 2018 and a member of the Students' Welfare Society from 2003 to 2005. She served as the coordinator of Bachelor of Education and Master of Education degree programs from year 2006 to 2016. She has, to her credits, many individual and collaborative research studies and projects with National Education Research and Evaluation Center, NEREC, from year 1999 to year 2004. She was an illustrious senior lecturer and extraordinary writer and a source of inspiration for the Faculty of Education. Dr. Anula Hettige, who was pragmatically involved in uplifting and shaping the futuristic teacher education, has remarkably rendered a yeoman's service for the national level education in Sri Lanka.
Former Associate Professor Dr. A. Jayawardena, attached to the Department of Social Science Education, Faculty of Education. Professor Jayawardena occupied the prominent place among the comparative education in contemporary education system. He was a valued contributor of the Department of Social Science Education at the Faculty of Education from 1990 to 2018. And he served as head of the department at the Department of Social Science Education from 2009 to 2015, where he demonstrated exceptional leadership. Professor Jayawardena wrote numerous journal articles and books on educational policies, educational philosophy, and educational reforms. And he was a researcher in a multitude of settings of education. In his service of the university, he was well versed in the comparative education, education law, education and child rights, and education and human rights. Mr. W.M. Prajnadarshana attached to the Department of Science and Technology Education, Faculty of Education. His scholarly contribution to the field of mathematics education is well recognized, and he was a consultant curriculum development committees in mathematics, Ministry of Education, and National Institute of Education. Also, he was an assistant superintendent of examination, Department of Education. He has served as an advisor in mathematics education in several national organizations and a consultant in mathematics national level researches and projects, Ministry of Education. Mr. Prajnadarshana was appointed as the head of the Department of Science and Technology Education in several times, 2006 to 2009, and 2014 to 2015, and 2017 to 2018. Mr. Prajnadarshana was retired from the university in 2019. Professor Emeritus M. Pereira attached to the Department of Humanities Education, Faculty of Education. Professor Mari Pereira was appointed as Dean of the Faculty of Education, Director, National Education Research Evaluation Center, Director, Staff Development Center, Head of the Department of Humanities Education. During her period of Dean, Professor Mari Pereira obtained a grant of $30 million to improve postgraduate studies in the faculty, and instrumental in obtaining a 4-story building and resource center for the faculty. Professor M. Pereira was consultant to the World Bank, Asia Development Bank, and GIZ, Ministry of Education, National Institute of Education, and National Education Commission, and also British Council-funded projects. And she authored over 70 research papers published both locally and internationally. Her scholarly contribution to the university is well recognized, and she is the recipient of many awards and honors for services rendered. Mr. S. Galagamage attached to the Department of Social Science Education, Faculty of Education. Mr. Galagamage is a renowned academic well-versed in Sinhala language with an expertise in sociology of education, comparative education, and history. And his scholarly contribution in the field of sociology education is well recognized. He is pioneering author in writing books on sociology of education in Sinhala language, which are extensively referred by undergraduates and postgraduate students and other interested professionals in the related fields. His expertise in the field of education is further distributed through research articles he has published in many journals during his tenure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sitari Tilakaratna and Mr. Chandradeep Gamage for reading out the citations. The next item on the agenda is the distribution of the tokens of appreciation to the distinguished retired academics. As I am going to read out the names of those who are present here today, they will be given away their tokens of gratitude by Dr. Kapila Bandara, the Dean of the Faculty of Education. So I first invite Dr. Kapila Bandara to come forward. And in the list of our distinguished retired academics, I would like to invite first former Professor C. Karyavasam from the Department of Humanities Education to come forward and accept the token of gratitude that we have prepared for him. Thank you very much, former Professor C. Karyavasam. We really appreciate your decision to come here today physically and be with us on the occasion of the first International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education. Many thanks to you. Next, former Professor Dr. Raja Gunawardena. If you please come forward, sir. Thank you very much, former Professor Dr. Raja Gunawardena, for being with us here today. Next, I would like to call upon former Professor Dr. M. Karunanidhi to come forward. We thank you also very much for coming over to the faculty today to be with us. Next, former Professor Dayarohana Atukorala from the Department of Humanities Education. Thank you very much, Professor Dayarohana Atukola, former. And you look ever so young. I believe that you will continue to look the same as long as we see you in future. Mr. N.V. Karunasena from the Department of Science and Technology Education. We really miss you here at the Faculty of Education. We continue to think of those nice moments where we had very intimate talks and sometimes arrogantly as well. Next, Professor Emeritus Mari Pereira from the Department of Humanities Education. The last person that we have on the list here today is Mr. S. Galagamage, who is physically present here. So I cordially invite him to come forward and accept his token of gratitude that we have prepared for him. We have almost come to the end of the first ever International Research Symposium organized by the Faculty of Education. Next and the last item on the agenda is the vote of thanks. I cordially invite Dr. Lalitha Kumari, Head Department of Social Science Education, and she is also the chairperson of the first ever International Research Symposium, to come to the stage and propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Kumari, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all. It is my privilege and pleasure to be the chairperson of the first International Research Symposium 2021 of the Faculty of Education, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. Also, it is my honor to have been offered the opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks at the first International Research Symposium. The first International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education this year will be a remarkable one, as it has provided a new arena for both local and international academic communities to disseminate and discuss their research findings and contribute to enhancing the quality of education and thereby achieving society's well-being. The theme of the International Research Symposium, Interdisciplinary Research in Education, is timely as it has become an increasingly popular approach in research across the world. The first International Research Symposium is a collaborative endeavor of all members of the Faculty of Education, and my task as the conference chair was made easier because of committed and enthusiastic colleagues of mine. First of all, I take this opportunity to express my sincerest thanks to our chief guest, Senior Professor Chandrika N. Vijayaratna, the Vice Chancellor, University of Colombo, who has graced us with her presence at this occasion today and shared with us insights and receptive information. Madam Vice Chancellor, you are our source of inspiration. Thank you very much. Secondly, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our keynote speakers, Professor Rodolphe Egger, Dean, Faculty of Environmental, Regional and Educational Sciences, Competence Center for Higher Education, University of Graz, Austria, for accepting our invitation and delivering an insightful speech on learning our way and why interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research is important. I am also very grateful to Dr. Dujipa Samarasekara, Senior Director, Center for Development of Teaching and Learning, Center for Medical Education, National University of Singapore, for accepting our invitation and speaking to us on interdisciplinary learning to practice. Sir, your remarkable speech has not only paved the way for new avenue, but also brightened our perspectives as well. Thank you, sir. Also, I am very much thankful to Dr. Kapila Bandara, Dean, Faculty of Education, for the guidance and support extended in making the event a reality. I am also indebted to Dr. Sulochana Niranjani, the co-chair of the symposium, Professor Manjula Vitana Patirana, the former Dean of the Faculty of Education, for their constant support and valuable guidance, without which this wouldn't have been a reality. Next, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the advisory board members for their valuable guidance in making the first International Research Symposium a great success. Also, my thanks should go to the session chairs for accepting our invitation to chair the sessions. I would also like to offer my sincere gratitude to the members of the editorial board, language editing, and the review panel for their invaluable constructive feedback provided for the authors in improving the quality of their research publications. I also take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to the deans, directors, heads of departments, librarian, registrar, and all the academics of the University of Colombo and all other universities for gracing us with your physical and virtual presence here today. Then my sincere thanks and appreciation should also go to the members of the committees of organizing, invitation and certificate, inauguration, registration, IT, publicity, food and refreshment, University of Colombo School of Computing, and the University Press for their excellent contribution towards making the first International Research Symposium, Faculty of Education 2021 a reality. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to Senior Assistant Registrar, Ms. Thalatha Atukorala, Ms. Samadara Amarasinghe, Ms. Nayani Gamayatige, and all the supportive staff for their patient and humble support, dedication, and enthusiasm in this remarkable endeavor. I am also indebted to all the academics, administrative, and support staff who work enthusiastically in various committees to ensure the success of the first International Research Symposium of the Faculty of Education. Finally, I thank Dr. Lakshman Vedikkarage for his amazing comparing. At the outset, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you for your participation and wish you all a very productive and fruitful post-inaugural academic sessions in which every participant would benefit from the deliberations that are lined up in the conference program. Thank you all once again for gracing us with your presence both physically and virtually at the first International Research Symposium, Faculty of Education 2021. Thank you very much once again.